Hi, I'm Dr. M. Kamakshaya, open source software evangelist and also a full stack developer and freelance trainer of data science and analytics. For the past few video casts, I've been explaining how to write the programs using Python. This video series is meant for beginners as well as those who are interested to learn data science and analytics using Python. In this video cast, I'm going to explain you how to perform basic arithmetic calculations like sum, multiplication, square, using loops and conditional statements. These basic calculations are very much important and a starting point for writing programs related to statistical techniques. Just like an arithmetic average is actually a ratio of sum of the elements divided by the length of the vector. Suppose if you imagine that you got a vector something like this, I call it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now everybody first know that the arithmetic mean is going to be the 3. So in order to compute that, we need to use sum divided by len of x. This is actually how we develop Python code for statistical analysis or techniques. The aim of this videocast is to explain about a particular methodology called list comprehensions, and this is actually a blessing in disguise to perform iterative methods for basic calculations like sum, multiplication, square, sum of squares, something like that. Most of the time the list comprehensions are used to perform the multiplications and also divisions, but not for additions and subtractions. Frankly speaking, I don't know how to make use of list comprehensions. Suppose you want to make the squares. Okay, like you got let us square all the elements in this, each of the element in this vector x. The basic way is to write use the loops, not the conditional. We don't require conditional statements unless we wanted to filter the elements. So I need to do that in 3 different steps. First I have to declare an empty list, and this empty list is going to act as a container which holds the elements after squaring. Now I'm going to use the for loop in order to make the process this square operation on each of these elements. For I in x, okay, square, append, and this is actually append is a command, a method available to lists in Python. Now I square, something like that, because I is the element in x, so we can just simply, now you go back, you got all the elements squared. This is actually the rudimentary way of performing the square. So you see we have done that, achieved that squaring these elements by doing 3 different steps. Using list comprehensions, we can achieve the same activity very easily. So how are we going to do that? You have Python documentation for that. Go to Python documentation, where you have list comprehension, something. You can just sign list comprehension. You see here you have list comprehension. You can just study the method or the way you can achieve the list comprehension. So there are 2 ways to use perform this list comprehension. You see here you can use a lambda function, so, and use a couple of other functions like list and map. Here what is happening is we are defining that process as in a function, and that function is applied over our input data. This is one way. The other way is this is using the lambda function, achieving squares using lambda functions, and the list. This is not a list comprehension. This is the true list comprehension, where we perform squares the process within the square brackets, something like this. So x square for x in range, something like that. So the same thing, let me do squares. So let me delete my squares here so that I don't have that object right now. Squares is going to be all these three steps we are performing within a stroke. X square for I in x. Now I shouldn't say x here. For I, when I say I is the element in. Now you see the same output we have, same thing we have achieved, just as with loops and lists. Now we can also do the same, achieve the same thing if it is square or sum of squares, something like that. Suppose you want to make the sum of these squares, not the sum of the squares, but I think you can achieve that by reduce. Sum of the squares you can achieve by reduce. Let us make the squares. A list map lambda, and lambda is a function. Okay, I square. Then you have that data. You can also use list here, just like you don't need to put x. Since I have my data in x, I'm just going to make use of same thing you have. You see this. So I explained you how to perform this square, how to square the elements in a given list by using three different methods. The first one is using a basic for loop, and the second one is the list comprehension, and the third one is the lambda function together with map function. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for the new content. Subscribe to my video channel.